And I'd like to say welcome to everyone here from the East Side Area Business Association, the organization that has helped convene this for today. It's great to see so many ESABA members, board members, and new friends on the East Side with us today as well. We're going to do a round of introductions before I hand things over to Sagal Abdirahman from the St. Paul Police Department. Sagal, we're just really pleased to have you today. I want to cue things off by telling you a little bit about why I think we're here, and then give you a chance to just say briefly, here's my name, here's my organization or business if I'm with one, and this is why I thought this topic would be interesting. So just briefly, and I think we've got, I think that'll be, hopefully we can briefly do that, and then go ahead and just tag someone else who hasn't introduced themselves so that they can go next. All right, in way of context, I just want to say that we've been hearing from owners and managers, businesses and organizations across the East Side, as we've talked about relating to East Side safety over the course of the last year. ESABA did a bunch of organizing with the police department and with our business owners, with David Alarcon from Municiport, an organization that works with the Sunray Shopping Center, about civil unrest and ways that businesses could be more prepared. And one of the things that we did with Sagal and with David was develop a better understanding of crime prevention through environmental design, another workshop that Sagal does and a service that the department does to come out and help folks assess how can we change our physical structure so that we are burglar proof, basically. We put together a resource and put it on our website. We distributed flyers to connect with folks. And in the course of doing that, we heard from a lot of them, my community is a lot more agitated. My customers are a little more stressed out than they have been. We are having more incidents of my manager confronting people because of our concerns over shoplifting. These are things that we heard as we distributed flyers. And so part of our continuing dialogue about this, I think about this training as kind of a step next in our conversation about East Side safety. What can businesses and organizations do to prepare themselves to be good partners to our community members and their customers and to law enforcement? We also know that in the city of St. Paul, we have shots fired at a higher rate this year than we have seen normally. We have a police force that is working super hard, but is not necessarily any bigger than they have been. And we do have a population that is more stressed out by accounts for a number of calls. And so the rate at which the police may respond to some of the things that they would have come to a couple of years ago pretty quickly may not be as fast. How can we work to do our best to de-escalate situations and protect our customers and our staff, and also know when to call the police? So that precipitated our opportunity today to hear about this topic from Sagal. And my hope is that what we'll spend is 30 minutes of work with her, and then have some time afterward, we've got an hour for this session, to talk a little bit about your experiences where you work or live, what you have seen, whether the topics that we covered today covered it, if you think other people should come to this topic, what other training we might need. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about next steps as a result of the work that we do today. That said, I'll do my brief introduction and then I'll pass it on, and we'll do a round of introductions around the Zoom. For this part, it'd be great if you could turn on your camera just to react to people as they introduce, and also be available when it's your turn. So my name is Paris Dunning. I'm the director of the East Side Area Business Association. I've been in this position for 5 years. It's my 5th year. I'm delighted to have on the call with me some board members from ESABA, and board members who just asked for you to give a little wave here. I see Taylor from Mueller Memorial and Shatika from Family Values for Life. And Ann was not waving, but that was great, Ann. Ann DeJoy from ESNDC is a member of ESABA as well, of course. So I'm interested in this topic for the reasons that I shared, and excited to convene it and see where we go with it. So I would just pass it over to Taylor.
All right, does anyone hear me? Yep. All right. I'm Taylor Johnson, and I serve on the board of ESABA, and also I work as the Director of Community Relations at Mueller Memorial Funeral Home on Johnson and 7th. We also have a location up in White Bear Lake. And I am interested for the same reasons basically that you had said. I mean, it was very well described, and I think is something that, you know, we're all interested in being able to problem solve for ourselves and effectively de-escalate situations. We have some situations where folks will kind of come in and not have an interest in the business or will not be there for a service. And we just kind of want to know how to interact with people the best we can to make it a situation that everyone's comfortable with. So I'm going to pass it off to two of my coworkers who I see on here, Nicole and Nicole. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Nicole.
I'm also Nicole.
We also work at the Johnson Parkway location. I'm one of the funeral directors, and
I'm the office manager here.
so Nicole sees a lot of people come in every day, and I see people and talk to people every day about, you know, what kind of security levels do you guys have here? So it's just interesting to know and good to inform families of what our steps are. Oh, and we will pass it on to other Nicole, Nick Mahan.
Nicole McMahon, yes. Hello, I'm Nicole McMahon. I work for the Minnesota Humanities Center. We are a nonprofit here on the east side, and then also I run our event center. So I have a lot of contact with the public, different groups that come in here. And then also, you know, we do get our fair share of people kind of wandering in, wondering what we do, and just are interested in what's going on, that don't always, like you said, are here for a specific purpose. And I will pass it on to Yolanda.
Hi, I'm Yolanda Davis, and I work at Metro State Health and Wellness Department. We do outreach to Metro State students and supporting them we've been doing self-care kits. There's free counseling on campus for students and other resources. So we try to connect them with resources that they may need for their emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Oh, and I will pick Sagal.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sagal Abdirahman. I'm one of the crime prevention coordinators with the St. Paul Police Department. I'm excited to do this presentation for you guys, and I'm hoping that, you know, we can each take just one good thing away from my presentation. I will pass it to Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Metson-Bailey. I am the pastor at the Beloved Church over on the corner of Sherwood and Furness. And I am interested in this both just to for my own personal as a pastor, and also thinking about how could we be a part of keeping folks on the east side safe. So looking for my own edification and maybe future program ideas.
Katie, you muted preemptorily.
I said I apologize. I came on late, so I don't know who hasn't.
Just text
yet.
somebody.
Chelsea.
Perfect.
Good choice, because I came on late too. My name is Chelsea Fine. I work at Visit St. Paul. I am interested because it's always, we have to market to visitors that are coming to the city and be realistic about the safety in our community. So I'm interested in hearing about the content today and potentially being able to share it with other businesses that welcome visitors. And I also have no idea who would have just joined. Maybe.
Let's hear from Anne.
There you go. Thank you.
Sam.
Hi. Oh, which Anne?
Which Anne?
Good question. Anne, I'm not sure I can say your name. Anne Mertz.
Yeah, nobody can say it. Hi, I'm Anne Mertz.
Oh,
And
good.
I guess I didn't realize this was specific to businesses, but I wanted to sit in on the call because I have, experienced crime personally, and the response from the police has been kind of like, you're being a pest, go away. So looking for ways to, like, should I not be reporting crime? I don't know. But I do work for the YMCA, and we have been experiencing a lot of upset customers and non-customers and people quitting because they don't like what we want them to do and so on. So
And welcome.
we do have the police coming in every once in a while.
Glad to
I
have you
will
on the
hand it
call.
over to Frank.
Perfect.
Brian King, I introduced myself before a little bit. We're both retirees. This is Johanna King. We lived in the east side, just a block or two east of Lake Phelan. And I'm a retired engineer, and I could always learn more about how to deal with people.
Thanks, Frank. Frank and Joanna, welcome. Let's see, let's tag that other Ann. My friend Ann DeJoy.
Ann DeJoy from the Eastside Neighborhood Development Company. I'm doing this from my phone, so it's the first time I've done it on phone, so I might drop off here. But my interest today is I work with a lot of small businesses on Payne Avenue and Arcade Street specifically, and there has been an increase in things like shoplifting, burglaries. There's been some behavioral incidents directly on Payne Avenue. Customers are concerned, workers are concerned, business owners are concerned. We're all trying to do our best during recovery of both the pandemic and the uprising, but people are stressed out and people are acting out, I think, under stress as well. So multiple issues. It was a long, hot summer, and we had a number of, troubling incidents that I'm concerned about. Pass it on to, I don't know, volunteer somebody, because I don't have all the participants listed here.
Let's go to Shatika. Thanks, Ann.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shatika Flowers, Family Values for Life. I'm excited about today's topic and sad at the same time because I have a finance meeting at 3:30, so I only get to be here for a portion of it. There's so many reasons why I think this is an important topic. One, we serve children on the east side, and it's darker earlier, and so making sure our children can come and go from our programming, safely. We also do public community events, and sometimes they need to be pre-registered for, and we have people that come up that aren't registered that we can't always serve, and to be able to handle those conversations. And we do sometimes have it where with Thanksgiving, even with our wait list, we had a lot of folks to serve, and there were folks who still were able to get their bags, but were very escalated when they thought they weren't going to get them. In addition to that, I think, as Ann had mentioned, people are really acting out. I've never seen people more angry than now, and maybe just acting out. I'm talking road rage that I just recently experienced. And also my cousin who had a house on the east side, in his backyard, grilling, got shot in both of his legs. And as if that wasn't enough, he works at Bruce Vento, and not too long ago, there was a shooting there and his car was shot up. So that just brought that up for him. So there's a lot going on the east side. And we just want folks to be safe and learn to best keep ourselves safe, keep the people we serve safe, and also de-escalate those who are escalated because there's a lot going on and they're stressed. And I will pass it to our friend Jean over there.
Hi, I am Jean Melanson. I'm on the board at Cornerstone Elementary, free charter school on the east side. We are across the street from Boys and Girls Club on Ames Avenue, and certainly we are always interested in the safety of our teachers and our children. And also, similar to what a couple of you have talked about, is how do we de-escalate with people very anxious about COVID, and whatever decisions we make as a school, whether it's vaccinations or no vaccinations, maskings or no maskings, there's always going to be somebody that is uncomfortable with the decision. And, you know, we see the same types of things. There's just a lot of frustration. And how do we help to de-escalate that? And I will pass it over to Andrea.
I knew you were going to pick me, Jean. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea from Family Values for Life. I am here today. I second a lot of what everyone is saying. Also, I want to be able to be a resource to the people that we serve, and be able to give content and then help them with their de-escalation tactics too. So just give them some pointers if things are going on in their lives. So not only to help them, but the people that they may come in contact with that may need de-escalating as well. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And I will choose who hasn't gone yet. I guess raise your hand or put a little heart.
I'll just go ahead. I'm
Okay.
Chris Culseth with Serenity Marion, work senior housing campus on the east side near Mounds Park. This is such a topical situation that we're here with today, and I really wanted to be on it. And I just noticed Officer Holstrom had joined, and we have him coming out to our campus, I think the first week of January, to talk to some of our seniors about safety on a myriad of issues. So this is very topical. It fits with what I do, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Let's invite Tez. Hey, Tez, are you available to unmute and say hi?
Hey there, everybody. My name is Tez Halu. I am part of Eads Cleaning and Consulting that is located right on 809 East 7th Street, right on the corner of Arcade and 7th Street. We are a cleaning and consulting company that pretty much educates the public and facilities, whether they're a commercial building or a food manufacturing processing facility, just about the proper ways to safeguard themselves, their employees, and the public through process-driven services. And yes, I mean, that's pretty much what we do here. I was kind of in and out. I'm still kind of working and eating and doing all this at the same time while trying to listen in. So I appreciate you guys, and yeah, looking forward to hearing more from you guys.
Thanks, Tez. Also, just want to say Tez and EIDS Cleaning is the newest member of ESABA. They just joined today. So welcome. I'm glad.
Yes, we did. Thank you, guys.
So that's great. Great to have you on the call. Krista Schnelli.
Hi, I am Krista and I work for the Saints, and I also usually represent the Mounds Theater in Dayton's Bluff in ESABA. And I also live in Dayton's Bluff, and I just wanted to kind of listen to this safety conversation for just multiple reasons and facets of things that I do. So looking
Thanks,
forward
Krista.
to it.
Thank you. Always good to have you on the show. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful introductions. I'm going to turn it right over to Sagal. Also just want to acknowledge Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom. Thanks for being on today. Senior Commander, it's always good to have you on an ESABA call. Just want to turn things over to Sagal and we'll get going with this topic. Sagal, thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, it says you need to enable it. Okay. 1 second.
I'm not on the phone. I'm
Okay. Is this showing okay? Okay, great. So this presentation is kind of a mixture of our personal safety presentation and de-escalation included within it. So I'll kind of go into that more deeply as I present. And if there's any questions, really, this is kind of informal for me. So feel free to interrupt or drop something into the chat, and I'll try to see if I can keep an eye on the chat while presenting as well. Otherwise, we can go over everything at the end. So just some background about our crime prevention team. There's only 2 of us that do crime prevention in the entire city of St. Paul. So it's myself and Patty Lammers, and I've been with the police department since March of 2020. And so that was an interesting start for me, as you can imagine. I think it was maybe 2 weeks onto the job, everything went into shutdown. But I have a background in sociology with a concentration in crime and deviance from Augsburg University. And then I previously worked in race and equity and inclusion work. And then I'm certified in crime prevention through environmental design, along with crime-free multi-housing and being the facilitator for that citywide. So some of the main things we're just going to be discussing today are going over what is personal safety, what do we mean by personal safety when we talk about that as a crime prevention team, what are ways we can try to help people reduce the opportunity of becoming a victim. We kind of have 3 rules when it comes to personal safety, so we'll go over what those are. Some de-escalation techniques, like I said earlier, and then kind of some common sense tips that are often kind of forgotten to hopefully enhance some of our safety when we're in day-to-day life. So when we're at work, in public, in or around your car, and at home. And then if you're ever, in the situation where you are a victim of a crime, what are the appropriate ways or what steps to take to respond to that? So personal safety is about really just kind of using common sense techniques that advocate preventative measures. This isn't a physical resistance. I don't know Taekwondo or anything in that sort. So really, we just want to educate and also serve this presentation as a reminder of things that people can just have in the back of their mind as they're going through their life that will hopefully enhance their safety measures. When we think about crime in the crime prevention lens, we look at it in a triangle. So triangle has 3 sides, and so to us, crime has 3 portions that are important to it. So we have like the desire of somebody to commit a crime. If there's a empty parking lot that doesn't have any lights, or people are leaving their cars unlocked, or maybe running because it's getting cold or warming up, does somebody who's going to commit a crime have the desire to go and commit that crime in that space? Probably, and that's not something we have control over either. Does somebody have the ability to commit a certain crime? Can they get the tools they need to commit it? Can they get the knowledge that they need to commit it, whether it be from other people, whether it be from online, things like that? Again, probably a yes. And if so, that is also another thing we can't really have much control over. But what we do have control over is the opportunity for someone to commit a crime. For example, that parking lot I just mentioned, if that parking lot is well lit, if people aren't leaving their cars running with their keys inside, and maybe they're leaving it running with a remote controller and the doors are locked, things like that, where we are then reducing the opportunity and taking control over the one side of a crime triangle that we have and can do something about in order to hopefully reduce the likeliness or the easiness that somebody can have to commit a crime in that space or to you. The 3 golden rules when it comes to personal safety are: 1, staying alert, being aware of your surroundings, the situation you're in. Overall kind of situational awareness is going to be kind of reiterated throughout the entire presentation, but really understanding the importance of understanding and being aware of your surroundings is super important. Knowing where you are, knowing what you're doing, not being distracted by things. It's very important. We don't want people to put themselves in any sort of risky situations. We want you to avoid that really at all costs. We don't want people being heroes. If there's a situation that you're witnessing or seeing, that's when law enforcement should be called, or you should leave and get yourself to a place of safety. So we never want people being, you know, a Superman, Superwoman. And then the last golden rule is really trusting your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, and a lot of times, you know, our body has a way of feeling icky and off if we're uncomfortable or we're not feeling safe or we're just feeling weird about something, we want you to listen to that. Trust that, and avoid it and get yourself out of that situation if you ever feel kind of that, you know, that icky feeling in your stomach that sometimes people will get. Staying safe at work. When it comes to work buildings, and I know this varies depending on where people might work and what their work building might look like, and also people still working from home. But whenever you're in or around your work building, we want you to make sure you're keeping your work area organized and secure. If you have any valuables, your phone, you know, your wallet, maybe a purse, things like that, if you're not using it and you're not going to be present at your work area, putting that in kind of a safer place, maybe locking it in some sort of cabinet, putting it away somewhere. If you are in the type of workplace where you travel often and travel off sites and you're kind of in and out of the office throughout the day, get in the habit of sharing your calendar with your coworkers and with your colleagues. It's important for people to just kind of have an idea of where you're going, when, and you know, when you should be kind of coming and going. And also, if you're not there for a while, they know where to look for you first. Have emergency plans for weather, active shooter, and fire. This is really important because a lot of people will say they do have emergency plans, but it probably hasn't been looked at or revised in X amount of years. So making sure that you go over that ever so often, familiarize yourself with that, because you would rather be in a place where you're educated and aware of how to handle something rather than scrambling to figure out what to do once you're in that situation. If you have a secure building where you need a fob or like a key access to enter, we never want you to have you opening the door or holding the door for people, propping the door open if you forget, you know, your badge or something inside, you need to grab something from your car. Never doing that. The priority is for you to make it in and out of your these places that are secure. And if you have access, then only you should be gaining that access for yourself. Kind of continuing with when you're in or around work, and this can go for really anywhere, since we're talking specifically about elevators. But when you're around elevators, excuse me, we want you to try to avoid areas of concealment. And you're probably like, I don't know what that means, but really, when we talk about areas of concealment, a lot of times in an elevator, that's the part where like the number pad is for each level. Oftentimes when you enter an elevator, that's the area of the elevator where if someone is standing there, and sometimes if the elevator is big enough, majority of the time, you can't really see them when you're entering. So trying to avoid areas of concealment when you're on an elevator. And then also, you don't ever feel obligated to enter an elevator with other people if you don't feel comfortable doing so. It's okay to just let them go and wait for the other one. I know, like, you know, I just feel like in Minnesota, you know, there's this big Minnesota nice gestures that we have, and we feel like we have to do things because people are seeing us or the way we're moving, and we don't want to be weird or make things uncomfortable. But really, your priority and your safety and your life is priority. So if you ever feel just an inkling of like, I don't really feel comfortable getting in the elevator, then remember that you don't ever have to. When it comes to de-escalation, we want you to just be aware. When it comes to de-escalation, be aware of what's normal. When you're in your work areas specifically, you know what's normal and what's usual in that space. So look for, you know, when you're entering your workspaces and you're looking around, again, this goes back to situational awareness. If someone's in an area where they shouldn't be, if someone, you know, is confused or wandering in an area that may be secure for employees only, if someone is in a public area that's not seeking assistance or speaking to anyone. For example, if if your work area has maybe like a waiting lobby and someone didn't check in, but they're just in the lobby, right? That's kind of strange. It's like, what are they doing here? You know, are they waiting for somebody? Is something going on? Being aware for anyone who appears agitated or angry, based off body language, based off of what they might be saying, how they might be acting. If someone is looking around intently, is someone trying to kind of lurk in areas that are secure, is someone trying to test if security measures are working, trying to open doors that say that they are locked and it shouldn't be open to the public, things like that, where people might be just doing things that are a little out of the ordinary. And then also keeping in mind, what is your prior experience with this person? Are you familiar with them? Is this somebody that you're used to seeing here and there? Sometimes when people come into public spaces that are work buildings and things like that, some staff members might be familiar with this person to just wander through, and they're, you know, they know the person by their name and things like that. So keeping that in mind, what's your experience with that person? Are they familiar with you? Can you chat with them? Being really aware of people's body language. Sometimes it's not really about what people say, but what they might be doing or how they might be acting. So just being aware of other people's body languages along with your own. When you are dealing with the so-called angry client or somebody who might be upset in your workplace, this is often a common situation because sometimes people will feel like that workplace has power over them. Sometimes people will feel like that staff person can be seen in a power position again. Sometimes, you know, people are stressed by letters, by tests, by things that might be going on in your workplace that, you know, you're just doing your job, but that can be inducing some sort of stress on that person. This is specific to kind of clinics and hospitals and stuff like that, but it can really be applied to any sort of workplace. So really just understanding that sometimes a client or a person will not be happy about maybe the way a staff member might be answering questions. Maybe they're getting answers that they don't like and that's upsetting them. And so just understanding that really anything can really tick people off, and it might not be your ticks per se, but it could definitely be other people. So just keeping that in the back of your mind. When it comes to escalation, it can look like a numerous amount of things. You know, escalation can look like maybe somebody going back and forth and debating with you, an increase in hostility, an increase in tension overall, maybe an increase in volume of someone's voice. Maybe they're starting to yell, or maybe it has to do with a lot of gestures as well. So just, again, things to look for when dealing with people. And why escalation happens can really be for a numerous amount of reasons, and this is just a short list, but sometimes there really isn't a reason, or sometimes we can't figure that out, and that's okay too. So don't feel like you have to know why the person is upset, or you have to understand why the person is upset, because sometimes it's just as simple as we don't and we won't. When it comes to de-escalation, and this is what we really kind of want to hone in on. Really, the goal of de-escalation is for you to build rapport and kind of a sense of connectedness with somebody who's agitated, in order to hopefully that be creating a reduce in the escalation or possible physical violence. That's what we're always hoping for when it comes to de-escalation. And that rapport and connectedness can look like a variety of things. So we kind of have like the 2 A's in de-escalation, which are awareness and assessment. So really, we're just telling you to be observant around what's going on, and then figuring out what you can do after you are understanding what might be going on. So, you know, this will help you identify your factors and what's the issue. This will also help you with your own ability to control your emotional response. We're human beings. If someone is yelling at you, it's not crazy for you to feel bothered by that or for you to start to feel upset. If you're repeating something to somebody and they're not understanding what you're saying, it's understandable that you would also start to get upset. So just, you know, it really helps you with your own ability to control your own emotions as well. And then it also helps with identifying interventions, what ways are going to work best with interventions, and then also the timing of interventions. We also want you to make sure that you know yourself. Again, this kind of going back to what I said earlier, but understand you and understand how you as a person, as an individual, react, and that can determine whether a situation will escalate or de-escalate. And sometimes that's difficult to do. Again, we're human beings, we have emotions, and I completely understand that. But you being knowledgeable and understanding your kind of ticks or your hot buttons will help you in understanding how to de-escalate a situation when you're facing one. So before you de-escalate anyone else, you really have to de-escalate yourself. You have to know, you know what, okay, I'm here and I'm not going to pass this level, even though this person may be here. When it comes to de-escalating yourself, a lot of it comes down to very simple breathing exercises. I know you're probably like, if someone is going off on me, like the last thing I'm thinking about is breathing, but really you're breathing anyways, right? I mean, you have to, right? So you might as well just take a second and pause and maybe just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, even if you might be starting to get frustrated with yourself or with the other person. Sometimes it's hard to de-escalate yourself, but it's not a crazy idea for you to act calm. If you have to, you need to fake it in order to get that person to de-escalate. So this doesn't go to another level of things getting physical. You can pretend to be calm, and in this way you are maintaining eye contact. You're working on your facial expressions. You're making sure you have a neutral face expression. You have relaxed body language. You're not, waving your arms around. You're not getting in someone's face. And then you're really just kind of keeping your gestures to a minimum. It's okay for you to ask for help when de-escalating any situations, reaching out to your colleagues, your coworkers, people who are around you, and just, asking them to help you and to step in as well, whether that be a supervisor or a colleague. And we always want you to position yourself in a place of safety. So we tell people to kind of avoid the danger zone, which is kind of within one arm length. So just having a decent amount of space between people. If your workplace is the type where there's maybe a desk somebody needs to come to, you're on one side of the desk, the person's on the other side of the desk. That's kind of generally the amount of space we're recommending for people to have. And then, we want you to also understand your zone of influence. So within kind of your safety zone, you want to stay close enough to the person where you're able to still effectively communicate, and close enough where you guys are able to understand each other and you're still hopefully able to de-escalate the situation, but not so far that, you're yelling from one side of the room to the other. So using kind of natural barriers, using tables, and I've, obviously since COVID began, a lot of people have, those plastic screens when people talk through, whatever it may be, just getting yourself to a place where you're not feeling like the person can kind of come right under you. Things to be aware of. You need to be aware of your audience, who's around you, what is going on around you. Is the place crowded and there's no personal space? Is the space loud, noisy? Are there changes from the norm? What are the behaviors of other people? When you're dealing with somebody that may be escalating a situation, keeping in mind that, are there potential weapons? And if so, what are your avenues of escape? And this kind of goes back to your emergency plans. So do you see the front door? Are you in access of the front door if you need to be? Or is there another exit that you can get to if need be? And then again, like I said earlier, making sure that you're using kind of natural barriers within your space if you're able. Some other de-escalation techniques really is just to remember two key concepts. One is that reasoning with an angry person sometimes isn't possible. And the first and only objective in de-escalation is to just reduce the level of agitation so that discussion becomes possible. Sometimes the person will still be angry, and that's okay. But you're trying to just de-escalate it to the point where you're able to effectively communicate. And sometimes I think when we think about de-escalation, we think that that person has to be happy or everything has to be back to normal. And so understanding that you're just trying to get to a place of effective communication. And then also understanding that de-escalation techniques are inherently abnormal. So they kind of go against our natural fight or flight reflexes. And so to be effective, we really have to remain calm and centered. And then we also kind of have to remain professionally detached. I know that sometimes that gets difficult, especially when working with youth. But if somebody is really, really escalating, it's not very effective if you're personally getting attached to what is being said, to the person. And sometimes we need to kind of detach ourselves in order to bring the person down to the level that you're at. Some nonverbal techniques that you can utilize, like I said earlier, kind of controlling your breathing or being aware of the way you're breathing, controlling your voice. Sometimes it's not just about raising our voice, but sometimes our tone. We don't ever want to come off as condescending, as if you're talking down to somebody just because they're getting frustrated and they're not understanding you. So just recognizing your own self, how you're speaking, controlling your body language. And then controlling your vocabulary as well, understanding the words you're using, being intentional with the words you're using when speaking to somebody who might be agitated. And then it's important to remember that calm is just as contagious as fear and panic. So sometimes you just being calm and being level-headed will really help you in de-escalating some situations. Continue on with nonverbal techniques is making sure that you appear calm and self-assured, even if you're not. And like I said earlier, sometimes this is hard, but maybe trying to select an appropriate location to try to de-escalate. Obviously, that isn't always ideal, and we're not always in control of where things are happening. Maintaining eye contact, neutral face expression, like we said earlier, but then also, being in an alert mindset and alert posture. Again, knowing your exits, knowing where to go, knowing how to get to a place of safety if need be, keeping your hands to yourself, speaking smoothly, and then positioning yourself for safety, like I was saying earlier. When we talk about positioning yourself for safety, these are kind of more specifics of what we're saying. Obviously, knowing where your exits are, like I said earlier a few times, it's important sometimes when you're trying to de-escalate a situation to be at eye level with people. If someone is sitting, then sit. If someone is standing, then stand. We don't ever want you to look like you're talking down to somebody, because that can maybe agitate them more. Just trying to basically get yourself to be at the same height and level as they may be. We want you to try your best to face that person, and then also using natural barriers, like we said earlier. Some verbal techniques are sometimes when somebody is really agitated, you have to kind of disregard the content of what they're saying and really focus on the calming. Using kind of a soft, slow kind of tone of voice, not interrupting people, trying your best not to get defensive, respond selectively. A lot of times when people are agitated or upset, they're saying a lot of things, at a quick pace, and you don't have to respond to every single thing. Again, we're focusing on what is going to calm the person so that effective communication can be had. It's okay to empathize with people's feelings, but we never want to okay behavior that can put somebody in a space of physical unsafety. And don't try to argue or persuade somebody to understand what you're trying to say, because it's very likely that they won't. And then continuing on with verbal techniques, this kind of goes back to more kind of elementary or grade school, but making sure that you're actively listening to the person. So, understanding what's being said, really intentionally listening. When someone is speaking to you, a lot of times, we're looking at them, we're nodding, we're not letting, we're not interrupting them. Things like that. I think, these are all things we all know, but sometimes it's hard to do that when somebody is, at a different level that you might be. Again, just continuing with active listening skills, speaking in I statements, having some open-ended questions, sometimes mirroring people, paraphrasing what they say so that they understand that you are understanding what they're saying, and then making sure that you're not forgetting your own body language as well. And this is just continuing on with, responsive and active listening, acknowledging people, apologizing, even if you're not sure what you're apologizing for. Sometimes people just want to hear an "I'm sorry," and you'd be surprised at how calm they might get. Inviting criticism, and that's okay. But again, not forgetting your tone of voice as well. When it comes to de-escalating and the ending of that, sometimes, when a person has calmed down, you can begin to address their individual situation in the same patient manner that you have already, or sometimes the person you're working with doesn't respond to your efforts at de-escalating the situation, and you need to just end the interaction without exacerbating things or putting yourself or anyone else in harm's way. So sometimes de-escalation works and sometimes it doesn't. So that's an important thing for us to recognize and understand as well, and that it's okay if it doesn't work, and it doesn't always work, but it doesn't ever hurt to try, because when it does work, it feels really good, and it's really effective. And so if things aren't working, and your de-escalation measures and trips aren't working, you should always feel okay that if you or your colleagues or people around you who might be in your workplace are ever feeling unsafe or feeling like they're not in a safe or comfortable place, you can always call the police department, and someone can hopefully come out and help deal with the situation, whether that may be having a trespassing notice for that person or not. So again, when de-escalation doesn't work, is really when someone crosses into the dangerous line. So making threats against employees or the building, alludes to having a weapon or going to maybe go get one, or tries to ever get physical with an employee. These are all reasons to make sure that these are all examples of ways, or if something is like this is happening, that you should always be calling 911. Sometimes it's important when we talk about what we should do when de-escalation isn't working. Sometimes it's important to have a code word for your coworkers so that they know there's a situation and they can call for security or police if you are not in the place of doing so yourself, because you're the one trying to de-escalate. So just telling people, hey, can you call Bob? I mean, if there's not a Bob at your workplace, and this I'm just, pulling out of my mind, that can maybe your code word. That Bob means call the police. sometimes it's okay to excuse yourself. If you say, hey, I'd like to bring my supervisor in this so we can get this figured out, and hopefully, help you. If the person is all the way up here, you going and calling your supervisor is you going and calling the police. If the person ever leaves, especially if they're alluding to grabbing a weapon or anything, or you guys are already feeling unsafe or feeling like this might lead to something dangerous, feel comfortable enough to lock the door. If you don't want them coming back in, and that's when you can go ahead and notify police, or call and notify police. And then making sure that you take threats seriously. If someone says, they're gonna go and grab their gun, you shouldn't be wondering if they're really gonna go and grab their gun. We always assume people mean what they say, and they say what they mean. And so if someone is ever threatening you, your coworkers, people in your workplace that might not even be working there, but are using your place of work, take all of those threats seriously and make sure you're calling 911 as well. This goes into if you're ever in the case of an active shooter. I know earlier I touched slightly on having emergency plans for weather, fire, and active shooter. Obviously, this isn't a situation any of us ever want to be in. But like I said earlier, you would rather be educated and aware of what to do rather than panicking if you're ever in this place. So if you're ever in the situation of an active shooter, the FBI actually came up with the 3 things you should try to do if you're ever in this situation. So number 1 is try to run if you're able, try to escape completely, which is where escape routes come in handy. So knowing where your back exits are, your emergency exits are, things like that, leaving all your belongings behind, just focusing on getting yourself out. If people are entering from the way that you are trying to exit or escape, letting them know and notifying them that they shouldn't be entering. And then if you're able, calling 911 as soon as you're able to get out. If you're unable to escape, then your number 2 thing should be to try to hide. So when it comes to hiding, you're really trying to focus on getting in areas that are out of the active shooter's view. If you ever end up, in like a closet or behind some sort of door, then locking the doors, doing what you need to barricade the door closed if need be, whether that be pulling cabinets or chairs or whatever have you, and then silencing your phones and remaining quiet until law enforcement is there to get you out. And then the very last resort is to fight. And so they're basically saying that if you are ever in a situation that you feel like at your very last resort you need to fight, then you should. So your attempt and your purpose of fighting is to really kind of to stop the shooter from continuing. So you want to try your best in trying to recruit others to ambush the shooter, and using makeshift weapons around you, like chairs. I think they have fire extinguishers, scissors, things like that. When you're coming and going from work, and this goes back to general personal safety regarding workplaces, we want you to make sure that you're always, aware of your surroundings, looking around for any suspicious persons or activities when you're entering or exiting buildings. If you walk to a parking lot that's a little bit of a ways from your job, we want you to try to have a travel buddy with a colleague. I know it gets, especially when it gets dark so early these days. So just having a travel buddy when you're done with your shift is always useful. Try to not be distracted with headphones or being on the phone when you're walking or when you're doing anything really. Again, this will then, be obstructing your situational awareness, and we want you to be aware of wherever you are and what's going on around you. And if you're ever in a parking ramp, or you park in a ramp, whether it be work or in an apartment building, know where your emergency buttons are located. And usually these are near the elevators or the stairs of the parking ramp. When you're out in public, specifically just when you're out walking around, I know in Minnesota, a lot of people walk. So just some general walking safety tips. When you're walking, if you have a dog, bring the dog with you. We've seen the smallest dogs are really the mightiest on walks and when they're out and about with their owners. So dogs can really be a deterrent of someone viewing you as a good victim of a crime, and or a buddy or a friend with you. Obviously, I know sometimes that isn't ideal if you don't have a dog or a friend to bring with you, but if you're able to, then that's always useful. Walking in well-lit areas is extremely important. Really doing anything in well-lit areas, especially at nighttime, is very, very important. We don't want you to cover your ears with headphones or earbuds. I know you're probably thinking like, what the heck, if I'm going for a walk or a run, like I need to listen to some music. I'm for it, I'm with it, but I am gonna say that when you're gonna listen to music, try to maybe just have one earbud in, especially if you're in areas where not a lot of people are around you, so that you're able to listen to your music, but you're also able to know what's going on around you, or maybe have the volume a little bit lower so that you're able to hear what's going on around you. Making sure you're only walking on marked paths or sidewalks. We don't want you creeping up into the woods, going in places that aren't marked. We don't want people wandering. So making sure you're on marked paths or sidewalks. Always carry your ID with you. I know some people who are active runners and joggers have a jogger's ID. Whatever it may be, have something on you that identifies who you are. If you walk often at nighttime or in the evening, try to get into the habit of wearing some reflective clothing so people can see you, especially bikers or drivers, things like that. And then bring only the cash or cards that you'll need. If you're walking to the store, if you're walking to grab a few things, there's no reason for you to be carrying all of your debit and credit cards and a bunch of cash. Just bring what you're going to be spending. Yeah. When you're out in public, specifically if you're shopping, and I know we're nearing the holidays, and I'm sure people are getting out and shopping quite often. So when you're shopping or kind of running errands, try your best to park as close to the doors of the store or where you're going as possible. I know that isn't always ideal. I've been to Costco and Target on like Sunday afternoons. It's packed. I get it. But if you're able to, then that's great. And if a place is busy, then that's okay too, because that works really in your favor. We want people to be around. We want people to be in busy areas, and we want the places to be active, because that also helps create a safer environment for you as well. If you're stopping at a bunch of stores and going on a little bit of a shopping spree, try to put your packages or your bags in your trunk before going to the next store. Or if you're near your home, drop them off before you continue on, so that isn't some reason for someone to want to break into your car and steal your items. Try to carry your keys in your hand so you're ready to open the door. This is important so that you're not scrambling in maybe your purse or a backpack or anything as you're entering the vehicle, because then again, that will be obstructing your situational awareness. And two, as photographed here, I know I said this isn't a physical safety class, but if ever need be, we've always been told that it's okay to carry your keys in between your fingers as well, just in case if something were to happen to you, then there's a way for you to be defending yourself. Parking in well-lit areas, like I said, making sure you really do anything in well-lit areas is important. If you drive a smaller car, try your best to not park in between two large vehicles. If you're in, a Corolla or a Prius, don't park in between two pickup trucks. This is only because this would be creating an area of concealment for you. So people can't see, if you got in your car, what's going on, if something is happening to you. And we want you to be doing things in visible places. Kind of continuing when you're out in public, carrying the cash or credit cards separate from your purse and wallet. And you're probably like, well, what is my purse and wallet for if it's not carrying my cash and credit cards? And I get it, but I am going to say this. The reason why we say this to people is if somebody is coming and they just want to steal your purse, we don't want all of your life going with them either. I have a little, like a little mini wallet holder kind of card and ID holder. And I will often put that in my pocket, or now that it's wintertime, my little jacket inside pocket, even if I'm carrying a purse, just so I don't feel like if someone steals my purse, that, there goes my ID, there goes my debit card, there goes my credit card. So just something to consider. Or maybe just not carrying a purse at all and just having, those little mini wallet things that you can just stick in your pocket and have with you. Never carry more cash than you're willing to lose. I know nowadays I feel like people don't really carry that much cash, but it's still something to keep in mind. Avoid uncomfortable situations. Like I said earlier, trusting your gut instincts. If you're shopping and you feel like, oh, I don't really feel comfortable with this person, feel like they might have been following me through the aisles or whatever have you. If you're ever in an uncomfortable situation, especially when you're in stores, it's okay for you to go to an employee and speak to the loss prevention team or the security team there. Ensuring your cell phone is charged, especially if you're going to be gone for a while. We don't want your phone dying on you. We want you to be able to get a hold of people if need be, and then know where you're parked. And I think I'll touch on this a little bit after as well, but especially in parking ramps, knowing where you're parked. We don't want you being that person that's clicking the lock button or setting the alarm off on your own car to find your vehicle. Unfortunately, we don't want somebody waiting at your vehicle for you, so that when you get there, they know someone was looking for this vehicle and they're heading to this vehicle, and that's a perfect opportunity for them to steal the keys and steal a car or steal something from the person or whatever have you. So knowing where you're parked. Sorry, go ahead, Paris.
No big deal. Just wanted to give you a brief time check. Watching in the chat, some folks have had to go because we're at the 4 o'clock mark. So just wanted to let you know, so don't know where we are in the presentation necessarily. This is all really great. Let us know where you'd like to wrap up.
Okay, all right. I'll be quick.
Perfect.
It's a lot of info. Sorry.
No, it's terrific.
So safety in or at your car. Keep your doors locked at all times. When you're exiting your car, look around your surroundings. Again, if you're not comfortable with who might be near your car, what might be going around your car, you don't have to exit. So that's okay. Knowing where you're parked, like I said, especially in a ramp, and then putting your valuables away. We're getting to, the colder months and people are starting to warm up their vehicles. So making sure that you're not leaving your keys in your car, you're locking your car doors. You would rather go spend 60 to 100 bucks on a remote starter, getting that installed, rather than you risking starting your car with your keys, and that may or may not be getting stolen. And we never want you leaving items of value in your car, including chargers. I know people don't think of chargers as items of value, but people will really break into a car for anything. So putting your chargers away in maybe the center console, putting your wallet away, putting your purse away, put whatever have you, anything that may be sitting around in your car, putting that away is always going to be beneficial to you. I will go over this. General safety while you're out and about. We actually do not want people to carry pepper spray or mace or tasers. That says teasers, excuse that typo. And this is because those are all items that if you are ever using them, can be taken from you and used against you and put you in a place of vulnerability. So rather than those items, we highly encourage people to have a personal safety device or personal safety alarm. And that's what's pictured here. It can kind of camouflage on your keychain, and it has a little pin on it. And you can pull the pin if you ever feel unsafe or anything. And that pin will let out, I think it was like 180 decibels of sound. So it's really, really loud. And that's what we want. The whole point is to get people to have attention on you, people to look at you, and for that person to not be interested if attention is on them. You can find these from 10 to 15 bucks on Amazon. I think they sell it at Menards and Home Depot as well. So I highly recommend everyone to get one. when you're just out and about generally for safety, we always want you to just be aware of how you look. I know sometimes it's hard to keep that in mind when you're the person moving or walking or doing anything, but just really making sure that you're confident in the way you're walking, in the way you're moving, or the way people might be perceiving you is really important. When somebody is kind of looking down and they're not really wanting to make eye contact with people, even the simple things of you walking down the road, people might think that you would be a good victim of a crime. And so we don't want anyone to think that way. And so it's okay for you to say like, hey, how's it going, to some random person walking down the street, for them to look you in the eyes and for you to look at them in the eyes. And, you know, they're kind of knowing like, oh, hey, this person just looked at me. They know what I look like. You know, we want you to be confident in yourself, and we want that to show even for people who might not know who you are, because even that is known to be a deterrent of someone becoming a victim of a crime being done to them. Safety at home, and I'll go over this briefly. We kind of have what is called the 9 p.m. routine, and this can be replaced with whatever time you're kind of winding down at night. But getting into the habits of making sure your front door is locked, making sure your garage is closed, if your car is parked outside, making sure your car is locked, taking valuables out of your vehicle, kind of getting yourself into the routine of when you wind down at night and you're getting close to going to bed or kind of wrapping up for the evening, to make sure you're kind of having a little mental checklist of safety measures you can have so that you're able to sleep, you know, and know that, you know, yep, I know my front door is locked. Yep, yeah, that first floor window, it's closed and locked. So just mental notes that we want people to kind of get used to having in their mind when they're wrapping up or going to bed that evening. If you live in St. Paul and you're ever going on vacation, we do have a St. Paul vacation watch program. You can find that on our crime prevention page online if you just search up St. Paul Police Crime Prevention Team. Essentially, if you're gone for long periods of time, I think they do it for 2 weeks at a time, so you'll have to refill out the form after more than 2 weeks. But we'll have a reserve officer come out and watch your home for you in the evenings, and so that's a really good resource to have. If you don't live in St. Paul, I highly recommend you reach out to your local police department and see if they have a similar program that you can utilize if you're leaving or out of town for long periods of time. Kind of again, with being out of town, having your neighbor or your post office hold on to your mail for you so that isn't accumulating and it isn't visually showing that people aren't present in a home. And then making sure that your doors are locked at all times, including if you are in a home and your garage is attached to the home, that door that is in between the garage and your home. Briefly, these are just some things to consider if you're ever in a situation of an attack. So just kind of going over your mind, what might be the suspect's intention? Is there a weapon involved? Is there more than one suspect? What's your physical ability? And if the suspect is after you rather than an item, then maybe where might they be trying to take you? And then I think we're going to just wrap it up here.
I think this is a good space. Oh, go ahead to finish here.
Yep. So it's important for you to stay calm, try your best to be a good witness if you're ever witnessing anything. In order to do that, you have to always be in a position of safety for yourself. And then making sure that you call 911 and you stay on the phone with them, giving them detailed information, whatever that may be. So, yeah.
Sagal, thank you so much. This is terrific information. I know we've gone a little bit over. We still have some folks on the call, and if they are able to stay on, it would be great to do a little bit of conversation back and forth with you to get a sense from people about what they heard and what they'd like to know next. There were some questions that were put in the chat, and I'll start with those, and then we'll just get some. Be great to get some feedback from you from participants about where they are with this. So Krista had asked. She said that she often tells people to make sure to make eye contact with others as she's walking around, but women especially worry that will invite unwelcome attention. What do you think about that as just a safe space general suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of difficult. I am gonna say I always have a rule of kind of being brief whenever I'm making eye contact with somebody. It doesn't mean you have to like kind of stare them down or like watch them, but more so just them recognizing that you see them and that you're in the same space as them. So it just being a brief, like, you know, I see you, you see me, I'm acknowledging that, whether that may be a quick hello, you know, how's it going? Just a really quick, brief thing. So it's really left at very bare kind of surface level, but still a sense of acknowledgement. So they're aware that you are seeing them. I hope that answers your question, Krista.
Yep, that's good. Also, a question about the vacation program that you mentioned when folks are going on vacation. Is there a place to learn more about that and maybe other of the resources that you have?
Yeah. So I'm gonna just get the link for that real quick and drop it in the chat. It is specific for St. Paul residents, but I highly recommend, if you live outside of St. Paul, to just contact your police department and see if they have a similar program, because it's really useful. And I realize not a lot of people know about it. And so use it for sure.
Also, and this is a prompt to move us into this next stage of conversation. We'll wrap up here in the next 15 minutes for sure for everybody. So stay on if you can. Great to see folks are still on the call. But to say this, Nicole McMahon had mentioned they had a person come out from St. Paul Police Department to do an assessment, look at how safe things were there, and then do some training with staff about some of these aspects right here, the things that you shared. She would love to have the PowerPoint that you presented, the slides, to go over with staff and figure out if they have additional questions. Are those services available? Is that your team, Sagal, that comes out to do that kind of thing?
Yep, it is. So I can, maybe I can just send the presentation to you, Paris, but yeah, if anyone is ever interested in having me come out to staff or any sort of group really, to have just the personal safety or the mixture of personal safety and de-escalation, definitely we're able to do that at any time, whether it be in person or virtual, whatever people feel most comfortable with.
Great. Taylor, go ahead. Oh, that was Taylor acknowledging, not asking to be acknowledged. Gotcha. Okay, cool. My one thought that I have, Sagal, as we kind of talk about this, and just appreciated the breadth of, there's a lot here. I mean, for sure, you've shared a lot of things with us. When I think about this and the managers that I've talked with and owners that I've talked with about this topic, one of the things that I think would be really good is a chance for people to talk about things that they've witnessed or that they tried that didn't quite work, and a chance to do some back and forth dialogue with you and with other members on a call like this to see what other kind of ideas people have. As you mentioned, sometimes it just doesn't work. And, you know, we feel terrible when it just doesn't work, honestly. And how can we get some support for that is one of the questions that I wanted to ask. The other thing that I think I would love to just know and put it out there for managers who are on this call is, how would you suggest we practice these things with our staff? Because you know, the passive observation of these things was great. Like, a lot of incidents actually came up in my mind that I've either witnessed or experienced. But the opportunity to actually do what you're saying is counterintuitive. It's really hard to do de-escalation. How can we practice some of these things? And is there an opportunity to kind of prompt that for people?
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend people to just do little training sessions with their staff, with people that they work with each other, right? You guys, I mean, everyone is most comfortable with the people they work with, they're familiar with them. So just doing kind of, you know, it could be like a drama class. People are
role
just,
play.
Yeah, like a little role play. People are just, you know, one person is pretending to get upset, and you can have maybe, you know, sometimes you can set it up where the person that's getting agitated never gets calmed down, doesn't ever reach that point. And so having staff understand, at what point do you say, okay, enough is enough, I've tried, now we're just going to have to go and ask for other help, or call the police department, or ask for them to leave, whatever that may look like, right? Or, you know, having times where it does work, but really focusing on that, and also having real meetings and time together with your colleagues and your coworkers where you talk about things that may be your hot buttons personally.
Nice.
So just being open and a little bit vulnerable with your coworkers, you're spending lots of time with them, so they should know, you know, what really bothers you, or what, you know, if someone says a particular thing, hey, you know, I know that really gets me, so if that ever happens and we're ever in that situation, can I rely on you to come and help me out? Or understanding when your colleagues are really starting to get frustrated and they're not really helping, or they're unable to make any progress, and knowing when to step in and help them out too. So these all just require just kind of real, raw, vulnerable conversations with one another, in order for that to work, and to put that into reality when need be.
So Sagal, thank you. I want to ask the folks that are still on the call here in our minutes, or in response, are some of these protocols things you already have in place? When you think about this and you think about some of the basics, as Sagal mentioned, emergency planning, who's got your back when something strange happens? How do we get out of this place? How do we talk to folks who are elevated? Are some of those things you've already processed and put into place, I imagine? And where are the gaps? So thoughts on that?
We really haven't, because, you know, since I started in July of 2020, we're just starting to get back in the building. And so it's like, I'm discovering like, oh, like we don't have good lights by our door, like that. So I'm there's things that I'm starting to think through. But like we really haven't, like we're really starting from the base.
Perfect timing then.
I know. I just sent Sagal's email to my intern who wants to do a forum on public safety. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yolanda, Taylor, Nicole, or Taylor, Nicole are the same? Yolanda?
On campus, we the security send out, I actually read them. They send out reports. I know, I'm really bad. They sent out the yearly assessment and I downloaded it and I've been reading through it too. I just read everything. But someone in our class said she's in the military, but she was like, well, what's the number for security? So we have it on speed dial and security will give us their numbers. And something did happen on campus where it was like, see, we need to have our, you know, the phone number so we can call security. We have the buddy system that we use when everyone's leaving, everyone leaves together. Because I'm in the graduate program, all of my classes are at night on the weekends. So I usually have someone drop me off and pick me up right at the door versus walking. It's a long walk at night. I don't know why it looks longer. And, you know, there are places that are lit, but it's not lit like from where I am all the way there into the parking garage. And they just, security is always making rounds, but it's very easy for someone to slip through the net. And I have seen where security came, they saw someone trying to get in the buildings and everyone doesn't have a working ID who's a student at Metro right now. It's been really bad because the machine broke down, whatever the case was, students are trying to get in. So there was a student, I got dropped off and I saw a student trying to get into like the Great Hall, and security went and spoke to them. They had a hoodie on and everything. So I just saw the back of them. Well, I went through St. John's and I go to the library because we were eating in the third level. I don't know, the person did not have an ID, so they couldn't get in. They had a backpack, they appeared to be a student, but they kept hiding their face. And they tied, you know how you tie your hoodie where you can't see anything?
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew, the teachers were doing a presentation and the food was behind them and they were getting ready to start. And I saw this person slip in, pick up one of the trays and run out of the room. And we share with anyone that comes in, but they were not a student. How they got in, I don't know because everything's closed off. The public library, you have to go through a private door, and the fencing is down on the other side that would come into the college.
Yeah, they found another door.
So they found another door, they followed a student in,
Yeah.
whatever the case is. But there are lots of things like that that are happening, and now they're doing construction through the skyways. And so once you get in, and if you know the skyways, you can get anywhere in the building without having to scan in.
So, and Metro State is a little different than other places on the east side for sure. But even more important that everybody understands the security protocol. And it sounds like that wasn't an escalation issue. That was somebody that was crime of opportunity that a hungry person needed, who wanted to, right? You know, like, and that's up too. Like, we're just in a situation where there are more hungry people in our neighborhood.
And we do have days where they give out free lunches.
Yeah.
And they have them stationed where they have these big, huge coolers, and you can just go up and get a meal out of, I know it sounds weird, but it's Metro. So we feed people where they can, they can come and get something to eat. So
Taylor, I want to ask you too, with your staff, where are the places that you feel like this is hitting the mark, and where are the gaps?
Well, one of the things that Sagal said that was, you know, a key takeaway, I think, is coming up with a code word. We've had situations where people, so we're almost entirely a staff of women. And so there are times where people who are most likely experiencing homelessness and maybe have some addiction issues come into our building, and usually they're men. And so then there's a specific issue where, instance where a man came in and he was unwilling to leave, and I can't make him leave. And, but we were having a very calm conversation. Just, I was uncomfortable. We were uncomfortable because he was, you know, asked to leave and then was unwilling to do so. So, I mean, what do we do in that situation? And it would have been good to have a keyword, or just say, you know, like say, hey, can you get me a glass of water, or whatever that kind of secret phrase is, to have someone initiate to some backup services, because that's, you know, it's something that was it worked out. It was okay. And eventually someone just did call the police to come back up, and he had already left by then because we kept it calm and it all worked out. But that would be a very good thing to have, so that we know that there's something, we can communicate something without triggering someone who's there.
Nice. Yeah, totally great. It seems like there are a number of tips, and what we might do, Sagal, as a follow-on here is produce, or I'd love to talk to you about, like, do you have the checklist that places might be thinking about regarding, like, if you haven't thought about these things, here's some things you should think about, in addition to the, you know, that's the kind of, ESABA loves a checklist. I mean, it could be something that we could pretty easily put together that people could think through. And then it's been wonderful to be able to refer you for the SPPD stuff, the crime prevention through environmental design. I think I'm probably not saying that right without the acronym. Okay, I did say it right. Fine. And then be able to figure out if there's some other ways that we could support people in doing this work, doing the practice. I think it's kind of, again, like, because it's counterintuitive, the situations that I've had where folks have been elevated with me have been challenging to figure out, as you put it, right? Like, how do I not take this personally? How do I resolve this in a good way? Who's my backup? This isn't a situation that's out of control, but we're not able to move it on. Like, where's the, you know, like, it didn't get to the place where somebody was violent, but we did get to a place where we weren't going to resolve it. It was not going to get resolved the way we were progressing, right? So getting some practice, or doing some practice together as a staff to figure some of those things out, I think is a really good suggestion. And I think we would have an incredibly rich conversation together as ESABA members if we'd done some of that practice, or even just with the, you know, each of these incidents is also a practice. You know, when a restaurateur says, my manager was having a hard time dealing with a customer, who was getting vocal in the dining room. And I knew I couldn't intervene because I get more escalated than anybody. So I just had to stay off to the side. When they're saying things like that, they've done the practice. That is the practice, right? And so some of what they need to know maybe are, what are ways we could help those managers skill up? And some of these conversations, I think, could lead us to some good tools for doing that.
Well, the thing it makes me think of, Paris, is just like physiologically and emotionally, like it's really helpful if we keep our cool in the moment and fake our calm, but there's still a physiological response happening.
Good call.
And so like, how do you, like, after the incident, how do you get back into your body, and how do you like, and that's my jam. Like that's that's what I can offer a little bit of, is like, how do folks, like, yeah, you need to kind of sublimate that, your own aggression or your own defensive parts, but like your body still felt a threat, right? So you're going to need to discharge some of that.
Yeah, and then how do you finish your
threat.
shift?
Right, because you still have to be nice to your other customers, right? Like you've still got other
Right, for
tables
sure.
to wait on, or you've still got other families coming in for a funeral, or you've still got other students coming on campus. So,
Well, Katie, that's really good. I mean, Sagal, I think this is a great place for us to jump into this
how do you-
conversation together and figure out what kinds of other things we'd want to bring. And I'll love to debrief with you a little bit too. So thank you so much, Sagal, for giving us all of this content. I might just echo this back to some of our folks who are on the call to see some of what they also think about this, like things that landed with them in a good place, things that they want more information about, or things they'd love some opportunity to try, or questions they have as they do this. Because I could see that this is a part of what we need to create in an iteration. Like you do a little bit of this work, you learn a little bit, you come back, you talk about it, you have some more experience, you got some new questions. So I think we'll do this again for sure. Hey, thank you, everybody. We're right at 4:30. Appreciate your time. We will be in touch. And Sagal, just to say again, thank you so much for helping ESABA kind of get this going in this way.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. I know it's a lot and it's kind of dense almost, but I'm glad we were able to do this. I'm glad people found it helpful. So
thank you so much. We'll talk again.
yes.